A dangerous virus spread across the world, and Norway was the only place left untouched where survival was possible due to its natural resources. Norway's Prime Minister, Ginge, had built huge walls around the country. Inside, only Norwegian citizens or people with special skills that could help in creating the virus's antidote or mitigating food problems were allowed. The government had also created an AI system that analyzed data from infected people and provided ideas to reduce food problems. At one facility, a biologist named Liza worked in the agriculture department due to her knowledge of crops. They grew some food in large greenhouses, and for the rest, they had set up large nets in a nearby section of the sea for fish farming. Today, Liza gave a presentation and stated that they should increase the number of greenhouses so they could grow more food and people wouldn't have to rely on meat. Her senior immediately approved the project. Liza and her colleagues were looking for locations to build the greenhouses when a warning alarm suddenly went off on their computer system. It indicated a problem at Norway's fishing farms. Everyone was worried because 60% of the meat came from there. Liza immediately tried to view the fishing farm's activities. She found out that for the last 3 days, they hadn't supplied any fishing containers nor submitted any reports. More concerned, Liza immediately tried to call James, the manager there, but James cut her call. Therefore, Liza now sends a drone towards the fish farms. While the drone was over the fish farm, everything looked normal. Liza used the drone to talk to the manager, demanding to know why the systems were shut down and if there was a problem. The manager initially got angry at Liza for sending a drone. As for security reasons, all drones were supposed to be with the public and army to monitor the borders for intruders. Despite this, Liza insisted on knowing the situation. Before the manager could say anything, Liza's drone suddenly shut down. Shortly after, a police officer arrived at their office. Liza requested the officer to check the fish farms, fearing the manager was in trouble. The officer refused, stating that only the security minister, the company head, or the prime minister could give permission for such a check, and Liza was only in the department. Liza was about to argue in frustration, but the officer ignored her and left. Upset, Liza called the fish farm manager again. This time, the manager answered and claimed that the ocean waves had changed direction due to changing winds, which was why they weren't catching fish. This was a lie, as the nets already had plenty of fish, but the manager had turned off the real-time monitoring machines. When Liza asked why, the manager said they were administering vaccines to keep the fish disinfected from the virus, which is why monitoring was off. Liza accepted this, but ordered the manager that if the monitoring wasn't back on by 6 a.m. tomorrow, she would contact her boss and send someone to check the facility. Hearing this, the manager started to sweat, but didn't show it on the call. Meanwhile, at the Norwegian border, many people were present, desperate to get in. The army was only allowing those who were experts in the medical field or were biologists. Charlie, a well-known biologist, got entry along with his wife Maya and child. Before entering the city, they were to undergo some tests. According to the test reports, Charlie and his daughter could go inside. Maya was in the first stage of the dangerous virus spreading outside, so she couldn't be allowed in. Charlie and Maya were distraught. Before they could react, some army personnel began moving Maya out of the border area. Charlie didn't want to leave his wife, so he quickly stepped outside with her. He was unsure what to do. He couldn't endanger his child by staying outside, nor could his wife enter. As they were leaving, a man approached them, offering to help them cross the border for 300 crypto coins per person. This gave Charlie an idea. Since they had no other option, Charlie decided to enter normally with their child, while Maya would come inside with the smuggler. They planned to reunite once inside. That night, they went to a coast as instructed, where the smuggler was waiting. Charlie paid him, and the smuggler gave Maya a phone for communication until she reached inside. The smuggler put Maya in a car, while Charlie and his child rode an official bus into Norway. The next day, Liza waited, but the manager did not turn on the monitoring system. Forced to act, Liza took a speedboat straight to the fish farm. The manager tried to stop her from entering, making excuses that his colleagues were working on vaccines inside, and that Liza could get sick. Despite his efforts, Liza went in and was shocked. All the workers were distressed because the entire batch of fish in the farms had contracted a strange disease. Their eyes and mouths were completely red, and they had black spots near their gills. The manager explained that this was why he had turned off the monitoring system. The fish had been sick for a week, and no one knew the cause. He was trying to create a vaccine, which he estimated would take days or weeks. Liza couldn't wait. She took DNA samples of the fish to her lab for study. There, Liza discovered an even more alarming truth. The fish had a highly dangerous virus. If a human ate an infected fish, it would also contract it, initially causing headaches, coughing, and vomiting. If not treated properly within 2 days, it would be fatal. Liza's boss and colleagues were highly distressed. The biggest problem was that the virus was also spreading through the water. This meant the water in all the other nets connected to that fish farm was also contaminated, and no fish could be caught from there either. Recognizing the severity of the situation, Liza immediately informed Prime Minister Ginge. Ginge took swift action, ordering the closure of all fish farms and instructing the health administration to quickly develop a vaccine. The fish farm manager removed all infected fish from the water. However, one dead, infected fish washed up on the shore and was eaten by a rat, which then headed toward the city. Furthermore, since the manager only discovered the fish were infected 3 days after the fact, the fish stock from those 3 days had already reached the market. A young girl who ate some of this market fish became violently ill, vomiting severely. Her friends rushed her to the hospital. Back at Liza's office, everyone was struggling to figure out how to feed the city, as fish farming supplied roughly 60% of the food. Liza proposed releasing the frozen fish stock currently in storage. She estimated this supply would last about 5 months, giving them enough time to develop the vaccine. Liza's head got angry, as only the Prime Minister could authorize the release of frozen food, and he might refuse if he didn't trust her reports. Liza began contemplating other options. Meanwhile, Charlie had arrived in Norway and was anxiously waiting for his wife, Maya, whose journey was expected to take about 2 days. Given Charlie's skill as a biologist, he was hired the next day to work at Liza's greenhouses. After work, Charlie went to the coast where the smugglers were supposed to drop off Maya, but after a long wait, their boat didn't appear. The smuggler had reached the Norwegian border in a small motorboat. Before reaching the shore, he shut off the motor and gave every passenger a paddle. This was because the area was full of sea mines that could detect a running motor, and hitting a mine would destroy the boat. The group managed to paddle forward. But as soon as the captain restarted the boat's engine, a nearby camera captured their image. Immediately after, a police drone arrived, constantly ordering them to stop. The smuggler refused to stop, forcing the police drone to open fire. While evading the gunfire, the boat suddenly crashed into some rocks. Everyone was eventually rescued and sent to the hospital. Upon testing, doctors discovered that all the passengers were suffering from the same dangerous virus. No one understood how. By now, the hospital was seeing 100 cases a day of people with the same virus, the very virus that originated from the infected fish. The public began learning about the virus outbreak. Due to the severity of the situation, the health ministry advised people to minimize going outside. By now, Ginge had declared a level 1 emergency in Norway, requiring everyone to stop eating fish and immediately dispose of any stored fish at home. Liza, unaware that the virus had already reached the city, was with her assistant collecting water samples from the sea to trace the virus's origin. She initially suspected either an infected fish from outside the border or that the virus originated in the seawater itself. Testing the samples in the lab, she was stunned. The virus neither originated in the water nor was brought in by an external fish. There was another cause for the virus, which Liza could not determine despite intense efforts. Suddenly, Liza noticed the Prime Minister's news report, which confirmed her worst fears. The dangerous virus had reached the city. This was highly alarming. Meanwhile, coastal guards found 2 dead bodies of smugglers in the sea. Doctors confirmed that both bodies contained the same virus found in the fish, which was now spreading in the city. This was a preliminary finding, not yet confirmed by experts. The cases began to escalate, and the most dangerous aspect of the virus was that it was evolving every hour. Ginge immediately declared a level 2 emergency. Under this, any area with a high number of cases would be placed under a complete lockdown, with no one allowed to leave. Liza was stunned by the news. In all her studies, she had never encountered a virus that evolved so quickly and spread so widely on the very first day. To learn more, she returned to the fish farm manager to talk. Outside, workers were dumping large amounts of rotting fish into the garbage, which struck Liza as odd. As she headed inside, doctors brought the manager out on a stretcher, completely sealed. He had also contracted the virus, and his condition was worse than the others. Taking advantage of the busy workers, Liza secretly stole the CCTV footage from the days leading up to the outbreak and returned to her office. There, she received more bad news. The virus had begun to spread to the tomatoes in their greenhouses, destroying a significant portion of the crop. No one knew how the virus had reached the greenhouse. Charlie was the first to notice the damaged tomato crop. As a botanist, he immediately recognized something was wrong. When Liza spoke with him, he suggested that an infected animal likely carried the virus into the greenhouse. He advised disinfecting the entire area and searching for the animal, checking all recently harvested tomatoes. If more bad tomatoes were found, the entire crop in that greenhouse would need to be burned along with the infected ones. Liza was impressed by Charlie's commitment to saving lives, even if it meant destroying the entire crop, unlike others who might seek personal gain in such a crisis. While Liza began researching the tomatoes, Charlie was occupied with other work. He suddenly received a message from an unknown number. He believed it was from Maya, who must have reached the coast by now. Charlie quickly left his work and headed towards the coast, and on the way, Charlie ran into the smuggler who had taken his 300 crypto coins. The smuggler informed Charlie that Maya's boat had crashed, and she was admitted to the hospital. Charlie was overwhelmed with sadness and anger. The smuggler promised to find a way to get Maya out of the hospital. But first, Charlie needed to be injected with a Norwegian vaccine given to newcomers. The smuggler claimed that if the authorities found out Charlie hadn't been vaccinated, they would expel him. Charlie was confused because he hadn't been told about any vaccine upon his arrival. Before he could ask any questions, the smuggler injected Charlie with the vaccine. Meanwhile, at the hospital, the condition of Maya and all the other admitted patients was rapidly deteriorating. Along with coughing and dizziness, black spots started appearing on their bodies. The doctor was so terrified that he immediately sealed the entire floor, prohibiting anyone from entering. The virus's power was increasing far beyond anyone's expectation. Because Liza was the first to expose the virus, Dekan personally summoned her and asked her to lead the work on the vaccine. As Liza began researching the virus, she uncovered even more dangerous facts. Liza discovered that the virus wasn't just a red-eye virus, but the much deadlier Black Plague virus, which had killed millions in Europe decades ago. It had since mutated to be 100 times more dangerous, capable of killing an infected person within just 2 days. Everyone assumed the 2 dead smugglers found in the sea got infected, attempted to enter Norway, and were killed by the sea mine. Their bodies were then washed towards the fish farms, infecting the fish. Prime Minister Dekan immediately declared a red alert and curfew across all of Norway. Even those previously allowed to travel for government work were now confined. Furthermore, Dekan decided that all people without Norwegian citizenship, regardless of their skills, would be deported. Dekan made this decision because, at the start of the global wars, he had already imported enough frozen food to sustain Norway's original population for 1 year. While Dekan's press conference was underway, the condition of the patients in the hospital worsened, and they began dying from severe coughing. Liza, still confused, went to the tomato greenhouse for a thorough search. There, she found the dead rat that had eaten the infected fish on the shore. Liza initially suspected the rat was the source of the virus in the greenhouse. However, when she cut open its stomach, she only found the meat of the dead fish. The rat hadn't even touched the tomatoes, yet they were infected. This puzzled Liza. Just then, she received an anonymous letter containing a safe house key, a password, and an address. Confused, Liza went to the address and found a suitcase full of hard drives. Liza returned to her office and started playing the videos on the hard drives. Watching them left Liza completely stunned.